Today, we're diving deep into the blueprint for American power, Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. This is the part that created Congress, which was designed to be the most powerful branch of government. Or, well, at least that was the original plan.
So let me start with a question for you, kind of like a riddle. What could taxes, international treaties, and yes, even the toilet in your house possibly have in common? The answer actually gets right to the heart of what we're talking about today.
And the answer is, all of them are regulated by the U.S. Congress. It just goes to show you the incredibly broad and sometimes pretty surprising power this one branch of government has to shape our lives in ways the founders probably never even imagined. But why was Congress even created in the first place? It wasn't just some abstract good idea. It was actually a desperate solution to a huge problem that was threatening to tear the brand new United States apart.
See, the first crack at a U.S. government was this thing called the Articles of Confederation, and to be totally honest, it was a complete disaster. The central government it created was just so weak it could barely do anything.
I mean, just look at the problems. Under the Articles, the government couldn't directly tax anyone, so it was always broke. It didn't have the real power to build a unified nation, and that left it totally vulnerable. You had these powerful European countries just circling like sharks, basically waiting to pick the new nation apart.
The framers knew they needed something much, much stronger, and their big solution was Article 1 of the Constitution. It created a powerful new legislative branch, Congress, and it put it right at the very center of the new government.
But just agreeing on that wasn't easy. Not at all. In fact, the whole reason Congress is split into two parts was the result of a massive disagreement that almost blew up the entire Constitutional Convention. So here's what was going on. You had the big states, like Virginia, and they wanted representation in Congress to be based on how many people lived there. That makes sense, right? More people, more power. But the small states, like Delaware, were terrified they'd just be ignored. They were demanding equal representation for every single state, no matter its size.
So the solution they came up with was brilliant. It's known as the Great Compromise. They created a two-house or bicameral legislature. You get the House of Representatives, where representation is based on population, which made the big states happy, and then you get the Senate, which gives every state exactly 2 seats, and that satisfied the small states. Problem solved.
And this compromise gave us the two very distinct chambers we have today, the House and the Senate. And even though they worked together, they were actually designed to play very different roles. And the differences really are fundamental. The House is way bigger, 435 members who serve these short 2-year terms. The whole idea is to keep them really closely tied to what people are thinking back home. The Senate, on the other hand, is smaller, more exclusive, only 100 members, and they serve longer 6-year terms, which is supposed to give them some stability. And they have their own unique powers, too. The House kicks off an impeachment, but only the Senate can confirm judges or ratify treaties with other countries.
Just think about that number for a second. 435 representatives. The reason for their short 2-year terms was to make the House super responsive, to reflect the immediate passions and concerns of the folks in their districts.
And now compare that to just 100 senators. Those longer, 6-year terms were designed to let them take the long view, to be a little more deliberate, and to kind of act as a brake, a stabilizing force against the shifting winds of public opinion.
And here's a fun fact. Part of the inspiration for the Senate actually came from Britain's House of Lords. The framers sort of saw the Senate as this elite body of wise luminaries, people who could provide stability and wouldn't be so easily swayed by whatever was popular that week.
But for the really big things, they absolutely have to work together. Take impeachment. It's a 2-step process, and it perfectly shows this division of labor. The House, representing the people, basically acts as the prosecutor. They vote on whether to impeach. Then it goes over to the Senate, which acts as the jury, holding a trial to decide whether to convict and remove that person from office. Okay, but the story doesn't stop in 1787. Of course not. The Congress of today is not the Congress from back then. Its powers, and even who's in it, have changed a lot over the last 2 centuries. For instance, did you know that originally you didn't vote for your senators? They were actually appointed by state legislatures. That all changed in 1913 with the 17th Amendment, which finally let people elect their senators directly. And then, fast forward to the 1930s with the New Deal, and you see Congress's power just explode, using the Constitution's Commerce Clause to regulate almost any economic activity you can think of. When the framers were designing this new government, they fully expected Congress to be, as one expert put it, the big gorilla in the room.
They really intended for the legislative branch to be, by a long shot, the most powerful part of the federal government.
But here's the really surprising twist. According to Heather Gerken, the dean of Yale Law School, what would truly shock the framers today is seeing how willing Congress has been to just give up its own power, especially to the president.
And yet, and this is the great paradox, while Congress has handed over some of its power, it has also expanded its reach into parts of our daily lives the framers would never have dreamed of. We're talking about everything from the war on drugs to, yes, setting the efficiency standards for the toilet in your house.
So, after all that, what are the key things to really take away about the role and the power of Congress? Well, here are the big three. First, Congress was created to be powerful. It was the fix for a government that was just too weak. Second, its two-house structure isn't random. It's the result of a massive historic compromise. And finally, its power today is kind of paradoxical. It's expanded into every corner of our lives, but it's also been given away in ways the framers would never have expected.
And all that leaves us with one final big question to think about. In today's world, with a really powerful presidency and a very influential Supreme Court, is Congress still the dominant gorilla the framers designed it to be? That's a question that really defines the whole balance of power in American government today.